Everyone. My name is Katie Mahalik with Sustainable Fisheries Partnership. I'm happy to have the opportunity to provide a presentation on how seafood buyers can support ropeless fishing. As we begin to dive in, allow me to introduce SFP and who we are as an organization. SFP is a conservation NGO that works with the seafood industry to help them address and improve sustainability issues facing fisheries of interest to them and their customers. We support a model of continuous improvement carried out by industry through fishery improvement projects, commonly referred to as FIPs. Protecting ocean wildlife is important to us and our partners, since most of our partners are large retailers and food service companies, many of which sell snow crab and lobster, which are popular items for consumers. Publix is the largest grocery store chain in the Southeast US and is a longstanding SFP partner. When snow crab lost its MSC certification a few years ago, Publix called their supplier and began a dialogue with them about what needed to be improved in this fishery and encouraged them to start a FIP. As SFP learned more alongside Publix about issues in the snow crab fishery, it became obvious that Ropeless had to be part of the solution, but there were a lot of questions about its feasibility. We needed an expert to create a briefing for SFP and for SFP partners to learn more about the challenges and a realistic path forward to implementation of ropeless gear. I'm happy to introduce two speakers today, the author of our expert brief, Hannah Myers, and Publix Supermarkets' Guy Pizzuti. Hannah Myers is a PhD student at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and a guest student in the biology department at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. She has also published a peer-reviewed academic article on ropeless fishing. In addition to authoring the briefing for SFP, Hannah gave a powerful presentation of the findings and recommended next steps to all of SFP partners back in April. Publix was already starting to implement a path toward ropeless with their snow crab supplier and supporting of a FIP. Guy Pizzuti, the Business Development Seafood Director, has been with Publix for 25 years and has been working with SFP for over a decade. Publix was one of SFP's first partners and are leaders in the sustainable seafood space. We are so pleased to have them both join us today. And with that, I will turn it over to Hannah.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Katie. I'm very glad to be back at the Ropeless Consortium meeting. And today I'll provide an overview of the stages through which we can expect ropeless fishing to advance really over the next 5 years. These are by no means hard and fast categories. There's lots of overlap. But of course, the first stage that we're all familiar with here is field trials. And this is really focused on iterative development of the gear, fishers actively using different systems and providing feedback to the manufacturers. And then in the second stage, we expect some limited ropeless fishing in areas that are otherwise closed. So by limited, I mean probably fewer boats on the water, and they might be using less gear than they typically would, but we are seeing some commercial use. And then moving towards the third stage, this is the time when we'll start to see consistent ropeless fishing in areas that have high entanglement risk. So the fisheries at each stage, we have the Canadian lobster fishery actively involved in field trials. And of course, the Canadian snow crab and US lobster fisheries are as well, but they've moved on to this limited ropeless fishing in closed areas, or at least the US lobster fishery is expected to do so with the latest rulemaking. And then the third stage, so the first areas that are likely to advance to this consistent ropeless fishing are areas in which landing's value is high during the closure period. So for example, some of the areas of the Gulf of St. Lawrence snow crab fishery, the closure is essentially season long during in very lucrative areas. And so the incentive to be able to access those areas is very high, and ropeless fishing can be an effective way to do that. The role for seafood buyers at each stage. So during field trials, it's really important for seafood buyers to be engaged, to show interest, talk to their suppliers, let them know that they're interested in ropeless fishing as an option. And then there might be a role for some financial support of gear development and trials as well. In the second stage, seafood buyers can think about preferentially buying ropeless product and potentially marketing it as such. And then in the third stage, that's a good time for seafood buyers to be starting to set standards for the amount of product that should be ropeless caught. So there should be consistent supply at this point of at least some amount of ropeless harvested lobster and snow crab. And across all these stages, there's an excellent opportunity for seafood buyers to be engaged in public outreach, as well as public comments on rulemaking and supporting appropriations and legislation. So this is really a broad strokes and a general framework, but I think it's much more interesting to hear from someone who is actively engaged in this process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Guy.
Thank you, Hannah, for your introduction and providing Publix and all other retailers an easy to follow roadmap to engagement. Also like to thank you for your efforts on this ropeless trap technology and the assistance you provided to SFP on a technical standpoint. Your work has been invaluable to this effort. I'd also like to thank SFP for the opportunity to speak today and their leadership in this and so many other efforts around the world. SFP has truly been a valued partner to Publix and has helped us on our sustainability journey over the past decade. Without SFP by our side, we would not have been able to make the improvements that we have in so many of our fisheries around the world. So you may be asking, why is Publix engaged in this effort? Hannah really touched on it in her presentation. This is a high value fishery. When we complete our annual sourcing evaluations, we look where we can make the biggest impact. This evaluation focuses on the volume that we sell of that product in the store, but also the challenges that the industry is facing and that this fishery faces. So working with SFP, we prioritize those items and those sources, and we begin to work on fishery improvement projects. For this FIP, we discussed the issue with Group MDMP, and they agreed to support and take the lead on this effort. And I'd just like to commend Max and his team for the incredible job that they've done championing this effort. Currently we're working on a few things. Our biggest effort right now is working to build a retailer coalition to bring others into this fishery improvement project. We invited SFP to present to the seafood committee at the Food Marketing Institute at FMI, and that was really an effort to gain additional retail support. To date, I believe 2 other retailers are prepared to engage their supply chain in this effort, so that's been a tremendous success. The other thing we're doing is really working to educate our associates and our customers on our efforts. It's important for them to understand that we care about more than putting groceries on the table. We're actively engaged in a number of efforts across all of our business areas. Our mission statement at Publix calls us to be involved as responsible citizens in the community. And this fishery improvement project is just one example of how we live that mission. Moving forward, there's several things that we plan to implement, but it's really following the roadmap that Hannah had laid out. We're going to continue to seek to increase retail participation. We are going to expand this effort to include our other snow crab suppliers, but also ask that Group MDMP expands the effort within their existing fleet. We will work to increase the amount of product being sourced using ropeless technology through procurement targets. And then finally, we're going to begin to engage our lobster suppliers in both US and Canada regarding testing this technology in those fisheries. Once again, I'd like to thank Hannah, SFP, and the rest of the group for this opportunity. I'd like to thank everybody currently in the meeting for the work they're doing on this technology, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for taking the time to review our presentation, and a special thanks to our speakers, Hannah Myers and Guy Pizzuti. Should you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us from the contact details on the screen.